Welcome to the Journos. I'm Peter Martin. Hugh, McDonald and Gordon Parks are here with me in the studio. Great to have you guys with us. Listen, lots to talk about. Thelwell and Stewart out, sacked. Was it the right decision?
Yeah, and all figures, stats, narrative point it to being the right decision. Stewart from day one has looked, as they say, in the wrong movie. I don't know why he took the job on, because his track record and his CV was pretty strong, and he was going into a mess, and he hasn't come out of it. Thelwell, it just hasn't delivered. A big transfer spend and not one player that you can hang your hat on.
Yeah, I think when people were dissecting it, Gordon, you looked at every player and you're thinking to yourself, surely there's a percentage of players that are going to be able to hit the ground running. That didn't materialise.
It's quite difficult. It's quite an art, actually, to be a recruitment chief and actually go through the money that he did and not deliver one even indication that you signed somebody that's potentially going to develop and become something more. I always felt it was a conflict of interest with that appointment, with the decisions that he made and the contacts and the clubs that he went to recruit from. If you take Everton and Chermiti aside, Manny Fernandez, Peterborough, his pals Barry Fry, it was too close. You have to have a wider scope if you're at a club like Rangers. The market depth has to be wider. The Asian market, the European game. He never convinced me as if he was a man that was able to go and target these kind of players, that kind of market. And the proof's in the pudding. Awful, an abomination of a recruitment spell which has been part of the theme for a long time.
I think it was easier for Andrew Kavanagh to look at it and say there are two significant moments justifying his son's appointment and also Chermiti, 8 million, with not really a back catalogue of prolific scoring.
I'm going to laugh, right? How can you pay that kind of money for a guy that hasn't scored a goal for 2.5 years? It's beyond parody, that. But then also the shamelessness of bringing in his boy after a thorough recruitment process. He has to be shown the door now anyway, because it's a dysfunctional appointment now, and it's amusing to me to think that he was allowed to spend that kind of money on a guy whose goal scoring record is appalling, beyond appalling, and it should have happened earlier.
Yeah, over and above that, Hugh, you've got a situation where they've spent a heck of a lot of money. They'll have to regroup and try and find somebody. I mean, I know there's been speculation about David Weir. He certainly has got a good pedigree doing what he does now, and we all know where he came back to Rangers as an assistant.
Yeah, I think the David Weir thing would be an obvious point of contact. But David's been at Rangers and may feel that he knows the brutality of the Rangers regime, and that he and Mark Warburton were resigned, you know. He's also got a very good job at Strasbourg, where they've got a really good academy. Everyone's joined up thinking there, and they're producing a lot of really good players. So he might look at Strasbourg and say, I'm fine where I am, thank you very much. I don't know, I have nothing to suggest, and I've not talked to David about it. The pull will be there because he is a Rangers man, he is a genuine Rangers supporter and feels for the club. So it'll be interesting to see, but the whole underlying thing about Thelwell and Stewart is the almost under the Celtic brouhaha, as we call it, over the AGM. It was almost underreported what the losses were at Rangers, and the only way they're going to get out of those losses is that players trading, and they've looked at player trading and said, oh my goodness, this is a catastrophe. And they've looked at the squad, and they've probably said to themselves, well, who are we going to sell out of this that brings us money in?
I'm not trying to mock the whole thing, but weaved into the statement, the department statement for the pair of them was they just don't align with the vision of us going forward that was right at the time. And the vision for Rangers going forward has to be sign better players. You cannot have so many catastrophic arrivals that don't even appear to be. I mean, as a recruiting people, we are blindfold on, because I was at Ibrox on Saturday, and the poverty, the quality, the clear, never going to be the answer. And it's not just several. It's more than half the team.
The other aspect of it, which we've got to look at, is quite simply, Raskin will be in the last 18 months of his deal. Would you punt him in January?
If you'd watched him on Saturday, you would punt him tomorrow. It's probably the only asset they've got. I've never been a massive fan. I think there's a personality problem there. He rubs people up the wrong way within the dressing room. He's clearly been a toxic influence under Russell Martin, and he got his way. I would definitely, if you're going to restructure the team, rebuild, if you get bad apples there, the bad apple's the first one to go, and if you can cash in and get a few bob, and he has got a market value, one genuine market value. If you're a Belgian international, you've automatically going to hit a bracket. Yeah, I would. He's not been my cup of tea. I think he's a decent player. I think the reputation that he's gained is far better than what he actually is. So yeah, get him going.
Yeah, the Rangers fans are not fooled by what they're watching. It's almost an apathy at times, because maybe when they thought 49ers were coming in, it was going to be similar to Lawrence Malborough, David Holmes, then David Murray. It didn't quite materialise, but they still spent about £40 million.
Yeah, and they'll be spending money now just to keep the club going forward. I mean, if you think of the losses, again, another year of losses, there's nothing to suggest that there's not another year of losses coming.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. All the constants are there. They're reducing the wages. It's come down a few percentage points, which is the right direction. They have to take that down. Match revenue went up because of getting to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. But there's certain things, certain constants that will remain roughly the same. So they have to improve the thing that they can improve, and that is player trade, selling players on. And at the moment, you would have to say Raskin apart, and I think Raskin has devalued his price as well. Though I think if people just look at him as a Belgian international, he should get some money. But Raskin apart, can you think of anybody in the team that people will be chasing? Not for me.
The one saving grace, though, is that the manager seems to be getting a trick out of a mediocre side that Russell Martin couldn't.
Yeah, well, he's got results, which is all important. I mean, you can talk about performances and that, and as Gordon says, the performance against Livingston was poor, but it's the 3 points, and Roll is in the position now that he just takes points wherever he can get them.
He said that after the game, didn't he? He says, listen, we're going to have to get dirty wins. Well, it was a filthiest of wins against a Livingston team that were more than a match. I mean, it could have gone. Livingston could have won that game. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and vice versa.
Would you just completely write off Braga and just say, let's try and get a performance that maybe gives you momentum on what he's building at the moment?
I'm going to the game tomorrow night, and I expect exactly what I always inevitably see when you get a team of that kind of quality coming against a Rangers team that just don't have the personality within the group to go and make a fist of it, really. I know they've had decent results in Europe, but this team at the moment, I think it's inevitable. You're going to get another masterclass in ball possession. You're going to get a slick Braga team that will hit Rangers on the break, and they'll exploit and identify the weaknesses, of which there are many. And I have to say, if I'm in that Braga team and I'm playing it up against the centre-back pair that were Ibrox, that were Rangers on Saturday, I'm rubbing my hands.
I mentioned I was speaking to Ian Crocker, the Sky Sports commentator, only in this season could you have a situation where you've got 2 clubs who've lost their managers in the season, a set of fans that want the board sacked, or certain individuals. Rangers are certainly the fans have got their way with the 2 that were really at the centre of their anger. And of course, that real displeasure about what's happened in the European ambitions. Rangers are 36th in the Europa League, Celtic in 27th place, and suddenly Celtic are off to Feyenoord. Off the back of continued unrest with fans divided against this board.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. I tried to explain the Celtic situation when I was over in Marseille, watching Marseille v PSG, to 2 French journalists, and they couldn't quite take it on. They were saying, wait a minute, Celtic have won 13 out of 14 titles. They got just beaten in a knockout tie by Bayern Munich, and they've got 50 million in the bank, and the fans aren't happy. Explain, please. And when people put it like that, it's very hard to put a context around it. But there is undoubted fan unrest. the thing about it is how is it resolved? And I can't see an obvious end game here. Because if the fans are looking for changes at board level, that's not going to happen. I mean, the result, as I say, the results are in 99% backed on shareholdings, and we know that's large shareholders.
You're talking about the whole board's been re-elected. Yeah.
And you say to yourself, and they're re-elected at 99%. That shows the scale of the task in trying to dislodge them. You know, and so I'm really interested now in seeing what the Celtic fans' collective strategy is to take the protest forward. I'm really interested to see how the Celtic Board strategy is to meet some of the demands over communication, over maybe changes to the stadium, changes to the team and strategy. I think they'll have to come out with a really strong statement on the back of the Nongsi appointment, which we understand is next week. I think what they have to say is, like, not only is this a new head coach, this is the start of a new strategy, this is what the strategy is, and then make a statement by Nongsi is apparently interested in 3 of the Columbus Crew players, and they're not going to come cheap. One of whom, the Palestinian centre forward, was bought for $10 million, so presumably they don't want to sell him for less than that. There's a couple others in the team, and I just wonder if that'll be the statement by the Celtic might do in the January window.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the AGM and eventually the debacle that was cancelled, and subsequently since then, you know, they've confirmed all the resolutions, all the re-elections, 99%, as you mentioned there. There's only 2 things that were not accepted, and I think that was from the collection of football supporters, which basically suggested a review of football, financial and strategic matters, and a vote of no confidence in the board, and they get voted down, which is basically, we're doing it our way, and you can just go in and bear it.
I think we live in a society now where we've got a cultural habit of complaint, and complaint dissatisfaction. It's infectious. In the old days, they used to light torches and charge towards the house, and get the gathers momentum, and people eventually don't realise why they're charging towards the house. I think Celtic suffer from that, and I think the dissatisfaction is emphasised, overemphasised, because the product they're watching generally in Scottish football isn't appetising enough.
Yeah, is there also, listen, you can compliment the Celtic Board for the way they run their business. There are undoubtedly areas where I think the Celtic fans think that they're open to criticism. Certainly the way the whole meeting was conducted, with Ross Desmond's statement, Peter Lawwell's rebuke of anybody falling out of line in the room, certainly didn't go down well with the supporters. But overall, their angst has been ambition, and obviously the recruitment and the timing of the recruitment as well has kind of exacerbated the discord between fans and the board. Is there justification on both sides here that has just not been seen, because it's just the fans are unhappy and the board is digging in? Is there legitimate criticisms?
There's problems. Aye, very much so. I mean, but the problems are, one has to be specific about what the problems are and how they're going to be addressed. If you're talking about the 21st century, Celtic have achieved a level of domestic dominance that is not only unprecedented, but in my thoughts, I thought could never happen. Could never happen. Just rattling off trebles, winning leagues, etc. So the problem's not domestically. I think the problem was, the 2 problems of the fans was that Europe wasn't good enough, and a part of that was recruitment. I think they tried to address that with giving Brendan Rodgers money to buy Engels, Bernardo, Ida. They went down that path a little, and then got a bit frightened at that didn't work out as well as we thought. I think what they've got to do, Celtic, is come out to the fans and saying, listen, and they've done this, and to say we've got things wrong. That's fine, that's good stuff. this is how we're going to get things right. We're going to start with a fan advisory board that will come along here regularly. We're going to appoint ambassadors. Would Martin O'Neill be a good ambassador? They will go out to the clubs free of charge. You can have nights out with the clubs, and they'll sit down and they'll explain the board's thoughts, the strategy. Then have a really defined strategy of saying where in this very turbulent European world does Celtic sit and where does Celtic want to go, and come out with a plan that explains to fans in real brutal reality what the difficulties are and the way forward.
Yeah, and
Sometimes the problems are too big to I mean, it's insurmountable, Celtic's challenge. I speak to Celtic fans and say, what is it? You're the board. But where are you? What do you want to be? You cannot be what you want to be in Scotland if you're operating within Scottish football. I know people disagree, and Rangers could have won a European trophy recently, right? But Celtic cannot make impacts and strides in the Champions League. You see teams now coming in with smaller budgets than Celtic and playing them with a different kind of style, a better kind of more effective style. I don't see how you can achieve what Celtic want to achieve without the money getting spent, which they can't afford to spend, and also in a climate and an environment where you're playing Dundee at Dens Park on a Sunday, and then go to try and beat a quality European team on a Wednesday, Thursday.
does it need a fresh approach at boardroom level, with maybe changes in certain faces and a fresh approach towards communication between the two of them? I asked Martin O'Neill after the St Mirren Celtic game, you know, and believe me, everything is retrievable in life. You know, you can build bridges.
Peter, you need a personality, somebody with a bit of colour, somebody that can identify that it's a trust figure. Now, the Celtic board, I don't know them. They just look like suits to me. You need somebody who's got a bit of buy-in with the support and get the message across. Because people just see suits and then they become suspicious of the suits.
It's remarkable, though, that we're talking about a board that is delivered, as I say, unprecedented.
What do Celtic fans want? That's my question.
And they've delivered, you know, huge profits, which, okay, there's a complaint that they've not been invested, but I think they will be. You say to yourself, well, what is the precise? That's where I've got my difficulty with the Celtic collective. You know, not only what is your precise complaints, and how, together with the board, are you going to do it? Because you're not going to get rid of the board.
The collective moan then, right? Because let's be honest, Celtic have the dark days, right? Look at a European night. Clubs can't wait to come to Celtic Park to play in a midweek. They have got an infrastructure there now, which is stable beyond belief, and they're slapping aside everything that's coming.
Well, the immediate thing, and I can only offer this as a consistent throughout it all, and not just for the straw that broke the camel's back with regards to the performance in Bayern Munich, and then you can draw a line in the sand. I think over a long period of time, from 2003 onwards, the criticism has been late buys, missed opportunities, poor recruitment, a strategy which means that the fans are led to believe that they can't compete at any level in Europe with huge spending. I think the fans wanted not huge spending, the right kind of spending, a better strategy there, and they wanted maybe a different attitude that's been shown by the board towards the fans when they've been communicating with them. So I think that encompasses quite a bit of it, and to have a bit of ambition, which I think was exacerbated by Brendan Rodgers' quotes and the way he was driving a wedge, suiting his agenda, and then driving a wedge between himself and the board, who were saying one thing and having private conversations with him, and then what he was saying out in the public domain. Yeah. So that really kind of increased the anger. But I think there is always a way back. I asked Martin O'Neill, there needs to be someone, a mediator. It may well be that the manager comes in and starts to play a style of football that is easy on the eye again, and he may well bring in early in the January transfer window players that he wants, and that suddenly can build bridges. There's got to be a way through. As far as getting rid of some people on the board, listen, it's just not going to happen, because Dermot Desmond is a billionaire who basically, it's his way or the highway, so he's not going to change, and certainly there's members of that board who are not going to move. So there has to be some kind of peace that breaks out by...
I agree, and I think though it's got to come. I think Celtic have, at board level, have recognised there is a real problem here, and certainly in communication. I think they have recognised that the strategy really fell apart under Brendan Rodgers as far as recruitment went, because they had this strategy. You know, people say Celtic's recruitment has been poor, right? But years of annual reports would suggest it's been really, really good. It's been excellent.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point. You make.
Because I would say, oh, Celtic can't.
That's a fact.
But a fact is, every year they were making from 10 to 20 million pounds on recruitment.
Yeah.
What Rangers wanted to do.
If you're sitting having burgers every night, at some point you'll long for something more succulent, refined and sophisticated, right? It's beyond Celtic's reach. And that creates a frustration, and there has to be bogeymen.
But I don't think Celtic
You've always
fans,
said that to me, right?
Yeah, but I don't think Celtic fans think they're going to win the Champions League.
I know that, but
they don't. They just want to compete
Yeah.
at a level where they may well get every now and then in this new format, a knockout phase game. That's what they want. They don't want to. They don't even have aspirations or expectations of they're going to go all the way in the Champions League. That's a nonsense.
I think that's why Almaty was calamitous.
Yeah.
Because in the recent Champions League, not only had Celtic got Bayern Munich and really given them a good game over 3 hours.
Yeah.
I thought
that's the best football I've seen in 20 years.
But I thought actually against Leipzig they were actually outstanding as well.
Real Madrid for 50 minutes.
But I think they've got to really return that quick. I agree with you on communication and strategy. I think they've got to communicate, and I think they've got to find a way to communicate. And my view is, well, that's all right, just saying it as a theory, as a principle. You've got to put in organisational things. I think they have to have fan forums where people can come in, not huge groups. People can come in. Now they're going to get people come in that'll just shout and ball. And that's not good to anybody. I mean, I thought what the Celtic, dissidents, shall we call them, did at the AGM was an absolute own goal.
Yeah.
Because they had them in their sights, they could ask them questions, instead of that, they disrupted the meeting, and then it gave Celtic's right to say, oh, take our way home.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a real poorly political thing. But going back to the strategy, bring people in, not only bring people in, send people out to the community, go to places like the big supporters clubs and say, we're going to have an evening with Martin O'Neill or Sean Maloney or whoever you want, free of charge, proceeds go to charity. They'll give you a bit of their career in that, but they'll give you what the Celtic Board thing is.
That's a bit like putting on the circus, right?
But it forms a link.
Listen, the strangest, smallest gestures, to show. I think they need to show some sort of humility. This board, that's not in great supply in that board. So that's the first thing. Secondary to that, I think Celtic fans would like to see just a little shift in saying, listen, we've got things wrong. We're going to change the strategy. We're going to try and back this manager. We're going to try and sign players early, and then let's see where it takes us. Those little small gestures are how you move things back.
And I've got a chance for this new manager, because this new manager will be looking at players. He'll have identified players. It's like an Ange move. When Ange came in, everything was pretty smooth initially with Ange, because all the guys he wanted, he knew they were available, and he could move quickly on the Japanese signings and get them over the line. There's now a chance in what is always a terrible window, the January window, to get in, some MLS players that Nongsi knows.
I'm a Celtic fan. That's big red flags to me.
Yeah, what Nongsi?
I think Celtic, again, they're the best in Scotland by a distance at the moment, even though Hearts have given something. But if he comes in and assesses and takes his time, that's his best road, I think, at the moment, to get acclimatised and to let Celtic go and win the league again, because that team runs itself and wins the league, regardless of who's in charge. I think he's got the perfect opportunity to come in now and take his time. I think if he goes and does the fatal mistake, jump quickly and bring players that he knows, he's got a problem.
Yeah, listen, he can he can ease the tension by winning the League Cup at the at the drop of a hat if they can do that. Although a couple of things before we finish, just on fans that are happy, which is all too rare these days. Hibs fans are fairly happy where they are in the league. Weren't happy when I watched them against Motherwell. Motherwell deserve credit. Jens Berthelaskau has put his imprint on that side. They've got a style, they've got a strategy, and they stick to it. And boy, they're doing well.
Breath of fresh air. It typifies a manager that comes in and makes players feel better about themselves, puts a system in place that they enjoy playing. Everybody enjoys playing forward. Switch of play, the pace they've got in the flanks. It's a potent recipe for what Motherwell's achieving. And the biggest achievement that they have at the moment is they're entertaining. They're making their fans believe it's something better. And I think if they hadn't had that succession of draws that they had time after time, it's easy we're talking about Motherwell in the same breath as Hearts.
Yeah, I mean, they have been impressive the way they've gone about their business. And they've not got what I would call, some of these big name players. It's all about, I've inherited them, I'll maybe tweak it with a few here and there. Charles Regan Cook has been a really good addition. And suddenly, you know what they are on the ball, Hugh? Brave.
Well, see, and they're confident as well, because what obviously the manager has given them is given them free rein, said to them, listen, I won't shout and ball at you if you lose the ball. Now, there's a downside to that, because when they were coasting at 3-0 at Tynecastle, there would have been a scream for, let's sit behind the bus, let's
get the bus parked,
and let's see who can hit Rose Ed. Instead of that, they kept playing and they lost 3 goals. So it's not a risk-free strategy, but it is capable of producing, really good performance. The performance at Celtic Park was excellent. I mean, it was deserved a point in anybody's estimation, and didn't get it. But that was the downside. Probably the turning point in that match was the goalkeeper trying to play out instead of just playing it away. But that's the risk and reward strategy.
I think they're part of the psychology change in Scottish football at the moment. Dundee taking points at Rangers, Livingston should have taken something at Ibrox, Motherwell now going, Hearts going toe-to-toe without that kind of fear factor, that kind of... I think there's a kind of decline in that kind of aura.
There's a decline also in the standards.
Well, there is. That which is key.
I hate to appeal to Hugh's and myself's knowledge of previous games where there's a team who just keep going forward and you say they're magnificent to watch, please shut up shop. But it reminded me the minute you said that of West Germany against France in 1982's World Cup with Journos, Tigana, Didier Sis, Dominic Rocheteau. What a team, the Platini. And you're saying to yourself, they're battering the Germans. Shut up shop now, you've won it 3-1.
Do you think I don't remember that?
Well, it's fine, that's great. Sorry, it was your hair, I thought. Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Didier Sis, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, those teams had it in them that they could do nothing else. It wasn't as if that was their way of playing. That was their DNA. Oh, beautiful.
See?
Tigana.
I had the Panini album sticker.
Tigana. I mean, they were just a superb team.
Who was the goalkeeper?
Oh, now, do you know?
Yeah.
He did a perm as well. Is it Amoros? No?
Rats.
Rats.
I don't know.
Who was the goalkeeper? He's Ruffyism there. Can't deliver that line.
No, but I remember the hair.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll find out that, by the way, for next Journos. Just to finish on, last point that I thought, pot 3. For Scotland World Cup. We now know, apart from the playoff winners that will kick into pot 4, we now have a clear vision of what we could get.
We've got a glimpse where it shows there's a 1 in 11 chance or 1 in 10 chance that the opening game in this is the Azteca could be Mexico versus Scotland, which has got my pension pot stripped ahead of any Chancellor's raid this afternoon. Imagine opening up the World Cup in the Azteca against Mexico.
Let's just hope that Harry Barnes is playing wide on the left.
Oh, Harvey Barnes, yeah, you having him in?
100%.
Yeah. Listen, it'll be absolutely fantastic if we get there. I am praying for Toronto and maybe Boston and New York for Scotland to be in that area. That would be great.
Yeah,
Save people a few quid, Hugh.
I'll probably save us a few quid if Eric McAleer comes out as our contact. I'll take anywhere, obviously, because I'm still processing the fact. I wake up every morning and say, when's the playoff draw and who have we got in the... So I'm processing the fact that we've got nothing to worry about until the World Cup kicks off, you know. And December the 5th for the draw is going to be a day in with popcorn and a pot of
It's a funny
tea.
game, eh? We've got a manager that's taking the team to the World Cup who has not won one group game at 3 finals that we've qualified for. But that optimism and expectation refuels itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as you were getting excited there, excited about the possible World Cup, Patsy just put an absolute downer on it for every one of us. And also threw in the grenade, get Harvey Barnes in there. Listen, all these things we'll debate at greater length in future shows as well. But great to have Gordon with us and, of course, Hugh. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. And thank you to the guys for joining us here in the Journos. Don't forget, also hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel and download the app as well, and you get all the breaking news at your fingertips. From all of us, thank you for listening and watching.